just keep being good at what you're good at. And when you do that, you'll actually get better at the things you're not naturally good at because you don't feel the pressure to be that way. So when we double down on our frustrations, we actually get worse at it and we lose the confidence in the things we're meant to be confident in.
I'm Jenna Kutcher, your host of the Goal Digger Podcast. I escaped the corporate world at the age of 23 with nothing more than a $300 camera from Craigslist and a dream. Now I'm running a 7-figure online business that feels even better than it looks, all from my house in small town Minnesota with my family. Here, we value time as our currency. We mix the woo and the work, and we are in the pursuit of building businesses that give us the freedom to live lives that we love. I've always loved turning big goals into reality, and I'm here to help you do the same. This isn't just a peek behind the curtain. Come along with me and my guests as we tear the whole curtain down. Every week, we tackle practical, no-fluff marketing strategies and host honest discussions on what works and what doesn't. Join me and my expert guests for actionable insights to help you grow your dream business with confidence. Pull up a seat and get ready to be challenged, inspired, and empowered. This is the Goal Digger Podcast. Today, we're diving into a topic that I think so many of us struggle with. How do we find joy and energy in our work, especially when burnout feels all too real? My guest today has spent his career helping people unlock the key to loving what they do, and he's created a simple yet crazy powerful framework to make that possible. Pat Lencioni is a best-selling author and renowned speaker, and his work has helped businesses of all sizes, from startups to global corporations, transform the way they think about productivity, teamwork, and leadership. His latest book introduces a model that's designed to help individuals and teams tap into their natural talents and create more fulfilling, effective work environments. This conversation, though, is so much more than productivity. It's about understanding yourself and recognizing what brings you joy, and then knowing how to use that knowledge to not only thrive in your career, but to help others do the same. Patrick is the mastermind behind the Working Genius model, and today we're pulling back the curtain on this game-changing concept, and I am also sharing what my assessment said about me, which was 100% spot on. So whether you're leading a team, running your own business, or just looking to find more purpose in your day-to-day life, this episode is for you. Be sure to visit workinggenius.com and use the code GOALDIGGER at checkout and get 20% off your $25 Working Genius assessment. It is 1,000% worth every single penny. That's workinggenius.com and use the code GOALDIGGER. All right, let's get into it. This episode feels like therapy. It feels empowering. It feels exciting. You are going to love it. Welcome, Patrick, to the Goal Digger Podcast. All right, we are diving straight in, and I need to start with this heavy-hitting question is, how are people not leveraging their genius when it comes to work, and what are the consequences of that?
So many people are not. And it's usually because they don't even know what their geniuses are at work. And they picked their career based on, they thought, I want to work in this field or in this kind of a job, but they really didn't define it in terms of the actions. They looked at more of the appearance of it all. And the consequences of doing work outside of your genius, I know because I've done it, most of us have, is burnout.
Yep.
It's lower performance than it ought to be, and then shame and guilt, and it stays with you forever. It shouldn't. It doesn't have to. My first job out of college, I had exactly the wrong job, even though everybody said it was the best job in the world. It wasn't for me.
Yep.
2 years later, I left, and it took me 30 years until we discovered this to realize why I failed. And it wasn't because I was less than. It was because it was exactly the wrong job for me.
Oh my gosh. I think so many people listening can already relate to this. I have found so many different turning points in my own career where I should have felt on top of the world, and all I felt was like burnt out or out of alignment. And I think so much of that is really understanding yourself, how you define success, how you like to show up. And so I want to talk about your Working Genius model because I took this months ago. And one thing that I think is so fun, Pat, is that people are so curious to know more about themselves. I think that in a world filled with so much information, a lot of times we're like, tell me about me. And we do all these things like personality tests or like, which character of Schitt's Creek are you most like? And we're really into those things. But one area that I think we don't dive into enough has to do with our working style. So, what is the working genius model and how did you figure it out?
Well, I love the way you described that because, I'm a junkie for all those things, Myers-Briggs and DISC and all these different tools, but nothing really did a good job of explaining the verb part, which is what am I good at? And we said we really should call it the 6 types of doing genius because it's what you do.
Yep.
And that's your job, but it's also how you work and what you like, where you get your joy and energy at home and in other things you do. But it really plays out, especially at work. So the 6 types of working genius came about because, Jenna, I was actually frustrated for many years in my own job. I loved what I did. I loved the company. I loved the people I worked with, but I would come into work excited. And many days by noon, I would be frustrated. And finally, somebody said, why are you like that? Why do you go from excitement to frustration and then to excitement again? And I said, I don't know, but I want to figure it out.
Yeah.
And so I started thinking about work. And by the grace of God, I was like, oh, wait a second. There's 6 different kinds of work. And I was doing one almost every day that wasn't meant to be done by me. And yet, somehow I thought that was my job. I was the president of the company. I was supposed to do this. And I got really burnt out and grumpy. And so I thought I wasn't trying to invent a new model. I was just like, okay, now I know why. And then we were like, wait a second. What about you? And what about you? And people started hearing about it. I had a whiteboard in my house and we were doing it at my home. Yeah. And a CEO saw it because he heard about it and he was sitting there talking to his team and somebody said, which of these geniuses are yours? And he started to cry. He was like, oh my gosh, I hate my job because I'm doing the wrong thing. And we were like, there's something going on here. And as it turns out, it's universal. It's real. And everyone we shared it with was like, I want to know myself better because I don't want to be miserable at work. I don't want to be miserable at home. And I want to know why when somebody asks me to do something, I either love it or I don't love it. And it really relieves us of guilt and shame and allows us to live into the genius that God meant us to live into.
Okay. Break these 6 things down. Now everyone is like captivated and they're like, which one am I? What is this? And one thing that I think is so interesting, so I have ADHD, and one thing that helps my brain so much is being able to compartmentalize or see things in like a clear definition. And that was one of the reasons why I love this assessment so much, was the different categories that allowed me to see, okay, what is my working genius? What is my competency? So walk through what are the 6 things and kind of like how do they play out in somebody's life so that they can close their eyes as you're describing it and imagine like where this might be coming into play within their life, within their work, whatever that looks like.
Right. Okay. So I'll try to go quick here.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do this in the sequence that work happens, although life is messy and it goes back and forth. But generally speaking, the sequence of work goes like this. The first genius, and I'm going to do it in altitude.
Okay.
The first one starts up at 50,000 feet, head in the clouds. The last one goes down to 5 feet, landing the plane, if you will.
Okay.
And the first one is the genius of wonder. And that happens way up there. And this is the genius of being able to sit and ponder things and ask questions and to marvel at things and wonder why things are the way they are. Every new idea comes about because somebody asks the big question. Even without an answer, they're like, why is it like this? Should it still be like this? Is there a better way to do this? And they ponder things, they wonder. And most people that have this genius, and it's a God-given genius, and it's critical, most people were never rewarded for it because in school, they're like, why is your head in the clouds? Why are you asking questions? Why don't you just get on and do it? Very few people get to celebrate this and be rewarded for it. And so many people with the genius of wonder, when they figure out they have it, they're like, oh, so this is a good thing. Yes, it's a gift. Yeah. And so that's the first one. The second one, a little lower, goes the genius of invention. Because the person with wonder says, is there a better way? And the person with the genius of invention, and this is one of mine, goes, I don't know, but let me figure it out.
Yes.
And we get up in the morning, we love to solve problems in unique ways and come up with new ideas. Okay, so the genius of invention. A lot of people think these are the real geniuses. They're not. They're all geniuses. But this is one that gets a disproportionate amount of attention in society.
Yep.
But it's just one of the gifts. Okay, the next one, we get a little closer to the ground, is the genius of discernment. These are people that evaluate those ideas and have a gut feel, an instinct, an intuition about whether it's going to work or not. They evaluate things, they curate things well, they have pattern recognition, they're integrative thinkers, and their gut feel is usually right. A woman in my office, her name is Tracy, has great intuition.
Yes.
Even when she was a little girl, people would go to her and say, ask Tracy.
Yep.
She'll know.
This is me. That's me too. That's
right.
mine.
And so, and it's not even things you're an expert on. It's just you have good gut.
Yep.
My wife will say, before I make a decision, ask Tracy. And that could be, are we going to refinance our house? Where are we going on vacation? Or should I wear this today to work? She'll ask Tracy. She'll know.
Yeah.
Tracy has great instincts. And it's not magic. It's a gift.
Mm-hmm.
It's a gift. Discernment. So they're really good at evaluating things. Once you've decided and you run it by the discerner, then we're getting closer to the ground now, the genius of galvanizing. Ooh. There are people in the world who wake up every day and say, please ask me to help rally the troops. I want to push people. I want to sell to people. I want to inspire people. I want to keep them moving. And I want to remind them, and I'll do it every day. They're naturally galvanizing. And some people love doing that. Some people hate doing that. One man or woman's trash is another's treasure.
Yes.
And we forget that. Then we're getting really close to the ground now. Somebody galvanizes everybody. Let's do it. There are people that have the genius, the next one, of enablement. Enablement is a good word for most things, not for alcoholism and things like that. But enablement are the kind of people who have the gift, the genius of coming alongside and saying, I want to help you. You need help. I love to do it. And you think about certain professions, and this doesn't break down, any profession can have any genius. But when you think about that nurse, when the buzzer goes off and they have to go help somebody and they're like, oh, I get to go help Mr. So-and-so. Yep. Many of us are like, oh, that sounds miserable. And they're like, no, I love it.
Yes. Yes.
I wake up in the morning and I love to respond to other people's needs on their terms. The last genius where we land the plane is tenacity. These are people that love to finish things. They love to push things across. They don't actually rest until they know it can be done well, and they can see the fruits of it. I have none of that. I've written 14 books, I think. Yeah. I would have written 0 if people around me didn't have tenacity, because I move on to the next thing.
Yes.
I come up with an idea and to go, okay, what's the next one? And they're like, you have a lot of work to finish this. Yeah. Somebody around me has to make me do that. So those are the 6 types of working genius. It starts up at wonder and goes all the way to tenacity and finishing things.
My team has been using Monday.com for years. It's how we manage launches, projects, and all the moving pieces in our business. When we made the switch, everything changed. We went from scattered docs and Slack chaos to a single space where everyone could see what's happening and when. That's why I was excited to learn that Monday.com's CRM platform brings the same clarity to customer relationships. It's fast, flexible, and built for adoption, giving your revenue and customer-facing teams a CRM that they'll actually enjoy using. And it's more than just managing contacts. Monday's CRM connects your entire customer journey from first touch to long-term retention, bringing sales, success, and operations together in one fully customizable workspace. With AI at its core, it takes care of the heavy lifting like lead scoring, forecasting, and auto-generated summaries so that your team can focus on closing deals, not chasing them. Move deals faster with an AI-powered CRM your team will actually use. Visit monday.com/CRM to learn more. We've been eyeing up some new furniture pieces for our lake house, and we have been loving Cozy because their furniture is amazing. Like, it's so hard to choose because we love their vibe. It is clean, cozy, and modern, and it's seriously made for real life. With a brand new puppy and 2 kiddos who love to climb on everything and snacks that somehow get everywhere, we need furniture that adapts to us, not the other way around. And Cozy gets that. They make everyday home furnishings easy. Their pieces are modern, adaptable, and worry-free, which is honestly a dream when you are juggling a puppy and kids and just everyday life. What I love most about Cozy is how it opens up new home possibilities. Their modular designs literally grow with your life. Like, you can add and rearrange or swap pieces as you need. And they have washable covers, which make cleanup feel so much more doable. It's your home, your way, and Cozy makes it all feel effortless. From easy assembly to mixing and matching styles, Cozy makes everything easy. I've never been more excited to cozy up. And yes, this pun is very much intended. Transform your living space today with Cozy. Visit cozy.com, spelled COZEY.com, the home of possibilities made easy. Okay, I know people listening are like, I need to know what mine are. So mine are discernment.
I can't wait to hear this.
Yes, mine are discernment and invention.
Oh, me too.
And yes, and I bet there are a lot of people listening that are similar in this. And what's so interesting, Pat, is as you were describing that, and I could literally picture the people on my team or in my life that are those supportive roles all around it. Like I couldn't do the inventions with discernment if I didn't have those people. And I love that you brought that up because there are also people who love to be behind the scenes, who love to help. They don't want to be the faces or the voices of the brands. And so I think what's exciting about this model is when you start to see not only what are your gifts, but how do you invite in other people with those other gifts to support the big vision, which is amazing.
It's a beautiful thing that we need each other. And this is why teams are so wonderful. God made us so that none of us have everything.
Yep.
And so, and what's amazing is we tend to assume that everybody else wants a job just like ours. And so you hire somebody and you manage them and you go, oh, I'm going to give you complete freedom and creativity. You can do it the way you want. And somebody will go, that sounds miserable. And you're like, what do you mean? They're like, I want you to help me figure out what you want from me. And I want to know what success looks like. I'd like some definition. That's my idea of a great job. And I'm like, that's hell to me.
Yeah.
And what a great thing that is.
Yes. Yes.
You know,
I
one
love
thing, so you're an ID or DI, that's the discriminating ideator. So the thing about you is you come up with a lot of new ideas, but while you're coming up with them, you're vetting them. And by the time you say, this is what I think we should do, it's actually, you've thought through it. You've evaluated. It's not just like a wild, crazy idea. It's actually pretty good. Now, asking you to then take it through to completion is like pulling fingernails.
Right.
It's like, oh, please don't. And there's other people that go, please let me take your idea and put together a plan and follow through and figure out the details and finish it.
Yes.
And you're like, oh, thank you for your genius. And they're all equally important and equally needed. We tend to denigrate our own sometimes and think, well, this is an easy one. What you do is hard. It's like, no, it's hard for you, but it's easier for them. And that's beautiful.
Yes. I love this too because I love the partnership of my two because I think the discernment is such a powerful one for me personally in that, like you said, I have a million ideas. Like just yesterday, I was like, I'm going to launch a granola business because I made one batch of granola. And I was like, just imagine. And then like immediately I start thinking through with my discernment, all the things. I'm like, what are you doing? So it's like that balance of like the ideas are so many. The discernment kind of keeps you in alignment and attuned to like the reality and like what is the true definition of success. And I think that it's a powerhouse combo. So I need to know, why would it be helpful and important for somebody listening if they're a solopreneur or someone if they had maybe a small team or a team that they were managing? How can we utilize this knowledge of like where we're at when it comes to these things to help elevate us or to just simply bring more like pleasure and enjoyment to the work that we're doing every day?
Well, so I think solopreneurs and small groups are especially important. In fact, last night I did some pro bono consulting to a small like ministry team, very small, 3 people. And we looked at their working genius and there were huge gaps. And if you're going out on your own, you're like, okay, I'm great at these things and I'm terrible at these things.
Yep.
That's how you know maybe who your first hire should be or who you should outsource when you hire a vendor. Don't get somebody who's good at the same thing as you are because you're both going to be frustrated. It's like you need somebody to fill the gaps and complement you. And if you don't know your geniuses and your frustrations, you don't know how to do that. And I want to explain this about those 6 things. Jenna, there's 2 that are your genius. That's where you get joy and energy. And so you're naturally good at them.
Yep.
2 of them are what we call your competencies. They're in the middle. You don't get really fed by them, but you can be okay at them. It's not terrible.
Yep.
Your genius is like one of these Yeti mugs where you put coffee in it, and you screw the lid on, and it stays hot all day. It holds the energy, right?
Yep.
Your competency in the middle is like this cup, and I put a lid on it, and it'll keep the coffee warm for a while.
Yep.
Your frustration, your 2 lowest ones, and I want to hear what yours are.
Yeah.
It's like pouring coffee in a cup that has a hole in the bottom. It just leaks out right away.
Draining. 100%.
If you do too much of your frustration, it's going to burn you out so fast. What are your lowest 2?
So my lowest 2 are wonder and enablement. So I think it's an interesting duo because, I'm really experiencing this, Pat, as a parent, because I have a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old. And I feel like my oldest is filled with wonder and I love it. but she asks all the big questions. And I'm like, girl, I got to like ChatGPT that. Like, I don't even know. And I love that. And I love that. But the other one with enablement is so hilarious to me because my like VP on my team, Marissa, is so good at this. And for a while, her and I butt heads because I couldn't figure out like how to release the control and let her do that. And it was just a really interesting relationship at first. Now I can't imagine not having somebody right next to me who is so good at that, because that is something that has released so much pressure from my life and allowed me to stay more in discernment and invention. And it was just an area where I was like forcing it for so many years because I had to, that when I released that, it was like freedom. It was like freedom.
And it's such a win-win because you get to do what you love. She gets to do what she loves.
Yes.
She's naturally good at it.
Yes.
You're naturally good at yours. The productivity on teams goes through the roof.
I bet.
When people just realize this and go, you mean you don't like doing that? And people go, no, I don't. Well, I'll do that.
Yes.
That would be a gift. How about if you do this instead? So you don't have to switch your job titles. You can just kind of readjust the roles a little bit and everything improves. It's such an amazing thing. I love that you use your kids too, because man, if you have a child that's an ET, for instance, the last two, they do what's asked of them and they do it well and they finish. Yeah. School is very easy for them early on. They never forget to put their name on the top of the page. They kind of know what their homework is. They have a natural sense of like, okay, I want to finish this. Well, I have a son who's a WI, the first two. He's way up there. And it's like school was never and is never going to be easy for him. I was talking to him last night. He's in college right now. And he was saying things like, yeah, I never checked on this. I just finished a class that I didn't actually have to take, and it's my hardest class. And we're like, did you check on that before? And he's like, no. And we're like, oh, God bless you. You're such a dear.
Yeah.
But if you don't know that, you'll actually turn to your kids, the one with wonder, and say, stop asking questions. And the one with ET, you'll go, you need to be more inquisitive. And suddenly you're saying, you're not enough. You're not enough.
That's big.
You can celebrate people who they are.
Yeah, I feel like this is so interesting to me because when you start to uncover these competencies, one, I think what you brought up is like you can share like the mental load a lot easier. And I think that for so many people, the struggle in starting or running or maintaining or growing or scaling a business is really the mental load. And it's almost like you're able to like release the white knuckle grip and hand things over safely. And also as a boss, if you have a team of 1 or a team of 10 or a team of 100, you suddenly are a better leader, not because you're constantly micromanaging, but you're allowing people to be in their genius, which I think feels better for everybody.
Oh, it's a gift to both parties. And what a tragedy, truly a tragedy, when we're both acting outside of our genius and not freeing the other person up to be who they are. Hey, I have a great thing for you, Jenna. Who's the woman on your team who's an E, who has enablement? Marissa. Okay. So one of the things about Working Genius that we love is it makes its way into your vocabulary.
Yeah.
You know, and which is really good because like one day you're going to be an ID and you're going to go, you know what would be really cool? A granola company. I mean, that's way out there. But an E goes, okay, I'll get started. And I say to people, oh, I'm not G-ing you. I'm not galvanizing you. I'm just throwing it against the wall because the enablings, they're going to go, okay, so let's get started. And you're going to go, no, I don't want you to do anything. Yeah. And you realize their nature is to act on your idea. Yep. But if you haven't fully discerned it and you're not ready to get them going, using the vocabulary, like we're having a meeting, we're just going to I things today.
Yes.
We're not going to GENT things. Sometimes I go to a meeting and it's like, it's a GET meeting. So I have to sit on my hands because my nature is like, we're launching it tomorrow. I have a new idea.
Yes.
They have to go, no.
Yes. Oh, I love this. What would it look like in terms of like a culture of having more so like accountability and commitment? So let's say that somebody is doing this assessment and they get their response. How could they help create a culture that really starts to like adapt to that and understands it and commits to helping people kind of stay in their best roles? Like, what would that look like?
You know, it's very natural and easy. I'm glad it doesn't take a lot of intentional design. Yeah. And by the way, the assessment takes 12 minutes to fill out. And because of the way we ask the questions, the accuracy is remarkably high because people tend to know what they get joy and energy from and what drains them.
Yes.
There's not really much incentive to lie. So here's the interesting thing is if a group of people sit around a table, they take it, they get their results back. The report has quite a bit of stuff in it, even the label that goes with their type, which we really worked hard on.
Yeah.
You go around the table and people read it out loud and they just start laughing because they go
It
like,
makes sense.
that's totally you.
So,
I did this yesterday with the executive team at a really wonderful big company.
Yeah.
So I had 15 executives in the room and we went around the table and they just started cracking up and they're like, oh my gosh, you come to me with an idea and you're selling it to me and I'm already trying to tell you why it wouldn't be good for our insurance program.
Yes.
And I don't know that you want to invent something and I'm trying to protect us. Now that we know that, we can have different conversations and the insights are immediate. It's crazy. I had an executive team once where they were a technology company. I had an hour with them to do this. We went through their working genius and they realized nobody on the team, they were technology. Nobody had invention as one of their geniuses.
Ooh.
Not the CTO, not the chief engineering officer, anybody, except the lawyer.
That's hilarious.
And they were like, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
And you know what they did? They put the lawyer in charge of new technology acquisition. And the lawyer's like, well, I can't do that. I went to law school. They go, it doesn't matter. You love this. He goes, oh, I totally love it.
Yeah.
2 years later, he was out of the legal department completely and was doing technology.
That is so fascinating. One thing that I think is so really interesting is like once you understand your unique pairing, and this is where I think it is kind of almost like alarmingly good, is okay, so for me, I crave freedom and trust. And this could not be more real. Like it is me to the core. And what I'm crushed by is constraint and like prove it. Like I don't like having to try to prove something that is so like internal. Like you said, like that gut compass. I've been talking about this thing, Pat, for like over a decade where I call it my gut game. It's like, what is my gut telling me about this? And like, how do I check in with that? And how do I get quiet enough to listen? And so what is so funny is one area that my like VP really brought in is when she came to the company 6 years ago, it was when I first became a mom. And the constraint thing was so real for me where like I felt so limited if I even had a single meeting on the calendar. Like she was like, how often does the team meet? And I was like, never. I don't like meetings. And like she's like, how do you run this team? And I'm like, I don't know, we just do. And so I have also been such a beneficiary of her adding in constraint in ways that doesn't feel limited or forced for me. And so it's interesting to see too how you can do things in a way that might feel at first like, ooh, like it gives you that kind of like, pull, but you can do it in a way that then really truly her constraints have unlocked what I crave the most, which is freedom. So by her adding in the right constraints, I now am getting the actual freedom I wanted, just not in a way that I saw was possible before.
And you know what's great? There's this thing called the fundamental attribution error, which means when somebody does something that you find annoying, you'll attribute it to their character. We all do this.
Yeah.
But then when we do something that others find annoying, we attribute it to our environment because we give ourselves the benefit of the doubt. It's one of the things that breaks down human relationships. And like St. Francis of Assisi said, seek to understand more than to be understood. Well, when we understand each other's types, it's really easy to go, well, Jenna, gosh, she's so flaky. It's like, no, she's an ID. She wants freedom. My favorite day on the calendar is when there's nothing.
Same.
And I get to follow my nose and I'm more productive.
Yeah.
Well, instead of going, that's flaky, it's like, oh no, that's how she's wired. God made her that way. Yeah. Somebody else is like, I'd like structure. Well, we can give each other grace and go, oh, you're not broken. That's natural. Now let's reorganize what we do so that your desire for structure can actually free me up to do what I do.
Isn't that cool? I love that.
And you're a mom. You do a lot of enabling.
Yes.
You do.
Yes.
But it's great that you don't feel guilty.
Yeah.
And you can go, this is not natural to me. It's a free will gift to my kids. Mm-hmm. But I really like when they come to me for advice. Now, my kids, what they told me later, because we didn't do this, they said, Dad, every time we came to you for something, you gave us advice. I'm like, but that's my discernment.
Yes.
Like, sometimes we just wanted you to do it.
Yes. I mean, it is. I think what's just so interesting is learning about this, especially when it comes to work, especially if you are someone who feels like you are doing all the things, you couldn't possibly do more, but you're either not getting the results or you're not getting the fulfillment that
Right.
you anticipated or craved. Because I think that a lot of times as entrepreneurs, especially when you're starting out, it's like you're wearing every hat, you're playing every role. And there's a really good chance that the majority of those roles are not the role that you want to be in or the place that you serve best in. And so I just feel like this is a place where it does unlock what your true motivators are and help you find the leaks in the bucket that you can get support in, get help in, get community in, just to kind of help balance out that experience. Because everyone that's an entrepreneur knows it is hard and it tests you and it makes you really learn about yourself. And I feel like when you can look at this in a way of like, okay, well, what is my working style and where do I shine? It does allow you to really kind of highlight those places and let go of some of the things that you maybe were forcing.
I remember when I started my business, my dad, God rest his soul, I said, Dad, I'm going to go out on my own. And he was like, no, you have benefits. I said, no, I know. I need to start my own company. And then I said, I'm bringing 4 people with me. And he goes, no, because you don't have money yet. Wait till you make enough money to pay for them. I said, Dad, I'll never make $1 if I don't bring them because I'm not good at half the stuff we need to do.
Yeah.
And I was with this team last night and they were like hurting financially. And then I looked at their type and they had nobody with G, E, or T, the last 3, which means getting things done.
Yes.
And I said, oh no, you can't afford not to hire somebody because none of you like doing this. It's burning you out. You're not actually conceiving of the right concepts because you're spending all of your time doing a grind. Mm-hmm. And they were like, oh my gosh, the very thing we thought we were doing, like doing what we hated, we thought that was good for the business. It was going to crush us.
Yes.
So it's so important to know that give yourself permission to ask others to do things that you're not good at.
You know those things you create for yourself or your business after spending hours Googling and wondering, why has nobody made this yet? Yeah, you could sell them. That's exactly what I did with my presets and templates. And with Shopify, turning them into products was simple. Starting something new can feel overwhelming and lonely when you're wearing all the hats. But with Shopify, you don't have to do it alone. Shopify powers millions of businesses worldwide and 10% of all e-commerce in the US, from brands like Gymshark and Mattel to those just getting started. With hundreds of stunning, ready-to-use templates, you can build a beautiful online store that matches your brand. You can even accelerate your content creation with Shopify's AI tools that write product descriptions, craft page headlines, and even enhance your product photography with a single click. And with built-in email and social tools, it's like having a marketing team right in your back pocket. From inventory to shipping to returns, Shopify has the expertise to guide you every step of the way. If you're ready to sell, you're ready for Shopify. Turn your big business idea into with Shopify on your side. Sign up for your $1 per month trial and start selling today at shopify.com/goaldigger. Go to shopify.com/goaldigger. Again, that's shopify.com/goaldigger. You know those text threads with your college besties where you say you're going to plan a trip together and then you blink and 5 years has gone by and it still hasn't happened? Well, my college roomies and I are finally going to do it. We're spread out all over, but the other day I found this incredible Airbnb with a private pool and sent it to our group chat. The thread exploded. Everyone was checking calendars, texting their partners, trying to secure babysitters. It was the most excited we've been in ages. Life gets full fast. So when we do get the chance to actually go, I'm reminded that someone else's home made that moment possible. If you've got a space that's just sitting empty, whether it's when you travel or even just a few weekends a year, Airbnb's co-host network makes it easier than ever to start hosting. You can partner with someone local to handle everything: guest communication, even setup and design. It's all about making your home work for you on the days you're not in it. Find a co-host at airbnb.com/host. I think you just hit something so critical. And I think this is why if you can get to know yourself better than you get to know the people you follow on the internet or, even the mentors out there, I think that will help get you further. Because I was telling someone, one of my greatest learnings, I think, in the evolution of myself is I no longer say, here's what works. I say, here's what works for me.
Oh, yeah.
And just understanding that we're all so individual. We all have such different experiences. We all have such different gifts. And I think that that is like a raising in consciousness of like, I don't know what's going to work for you, but here's what works for me. And I feel like this is literally that packaged up in an interesting way. One thing that I'm curious about is, what advice would you give to somebody who wants to bring this in to help themselves or their team get better results? Like, once you know what your type is or what your genius is, how do you maximize that? Like, what would be the next step to really not just take the result, but harness the power of it?
I'd say open up what you're doing. Like, don't make anything sacred in terms of how you're going about doing your work. Let's wipe the slate clean and rethink how we're going about getting our work done, because you have people in your last night I was working with these 3 people. The number one thing that happened was when we figured out that this one woman had wonder and discernment, that she's called the contemplative counselor, and she's really insightful. They reorganized what they asked her to do, and she was like, I would love to do more of this. They said, we would love for you to do more of this. You're going to tap into potential that you never had before. So what I want people to do is, don't hold on to anything about how you're doing it. Look at your work from a fresh perspective. Now, again, it's not going to be that you're going to change everything, but the tweaks you make will make such a difference. I want to tell a story about a guy right after we came out with Working Genius like 4 years ago. He went to a performance review, and he sat down with his boss and his boss's boss, and he had not had a good year, and he wasn't doing well in his job, and he knew that. And he said, this is going to be a bloodbath, right? He took Working Genius the night before, and he was like, oh, wow. He goes to the performance review and he hands his sheet to his manager and his manager's manager and says, I want you to look at this. And they were like, well, no wonder you're doing so bad. This is a horrible job for you. He's like, yeah. And they were like, we have another job. You'd be great at this other job. He said, I got promoted because I took an assessment in 12 minutes, gave it to my manager, and they put me in the right job. Well, most companies want to put people in the right job. There's very few bosses out there that are going to be like, I want you to do this, even though you hate it.
Yeah.
But if they don't know what you love and what you hate, they can't utilize you better. So sit around a table and how everybody put their thing. We have a team map. Like 8 people do this. You can do a team map, and it'll show you like the preponderance of geniuses and the preponderance of frustrations. And people look at the map and they're like, oh, no wonder we're struggling. We have nobody on the team with discernment or with tenacity or with invention. And it is it's so insightful quickly that people immediately go, I know what we need to do. Yeah. And it might be changing jobs. It might be the next hire you make. It might be just outsourcing or borrowing somebody from another department in the company who's good at something, who can come in once a quarter and spend 3 hours with you to free you up from somebody. So there's just so many low-hanging fruit opportunities for teams that do this and talk about it.
Do you know what your wife is? I mean, I'm sure you do. Let's talk about this in life. Like, let's talk about how this impacts life. Because I am like fully on board when it comes to team, and I can just totally see the power of like also just knowing who to hire next or what you need to shimmy around. But let's also talk about like life, because I think this is also fascinating.
My wife, Laura, and I'll show her this podcast. It'll be fun. So it explains so much. I think everybody needs to know what their spouse is and their friends and everything. So my wife is a WI. She's the first 2. Wonder and invention. She's the creative dreamer. She's always been that way. Always been that way. I fell in love with her because she's that way. You know, it's wonderful. I'm an ID like you, so I'm the next 2. So between the 2 of us, our geniuses are only W, I, and D, the first 3. Yeah. We have none of the last 3 hardly. Okay.
So like crossing the finish line, mapping out the steps to get it done, outsourcing.
So my wife, we have 4 boys, and the youngest is now in college, but for years, it was just chaos. And my wife was just so struggling. And I'd always say to her, why don't you outsource some of the administrative things? And she'd go, well, look at my friends. They're good at they don't have any problem. Look at, they're fine. Yeah. And she felt like I'm never enough. And these are childhood wounds. And she's like, I'm just never enough. And when we did this, the book, she was reading the manuscript on an airplane with me, and she finished it. And she turned to me. I said, what do you think? She goes, it was great. And I'm so pissed off. And I said, really? Why? And she goes, because I've been doing GET work for the last 25. And I said, I know I wanted you to outsource. She goes, I couldn't even outsource it. And I felt too guilty. Mm-hmm. Had we known this, right out of the gate, we just said, okay, we are never going to live into be the best people that God made us to be unless we understand this. So it's so enlightening. Now we can laugh at things and go, oh my gosh, you're a WI or I'm an ID. We still have to do them. But we don't get so down on ourselves for the stuff we're bad at. And it just changes a mistake in our family to a cause for like laughter rather than condemnation, self-condemnation especially, or getting frustrated. Like, I thought you were going to pay that bill. I thought you were going to pay that bill. It's like, neither of us want to.
Right. Oh, I mean, I love this. And I think too, it's so interesting because I'm sure, here's my guess. My guess is that like half of the couples would like span the whole thing, right? Like you are opposite or you're like-minded. Like I would guess that you're either similar to your partner or you span the whole realm. And I think too, what's so interesting, and I've been thinking about this so much just as a mom of young kids and a business owner and a wife, is like figuring out like, okay, where do I serve the family best right now in this season? How can I let go of the things that are either mentally burdening me or holding me back or stressing me out? And really looking at like task distribution and figuring out like who is good at what. And it's something that my husband and I have been doing a lot lately is just like renegotiation of like, who's deciding what's for dinner and how is this getting created? And so it's so interesting because I think it's easy to imagine it in an office setting, whether it's remote or in person, but I think it's even easier to see it living out in your daily life with the people that you are doing life next to and with.
You know what's funny, Jenna? These letters come up every day. I was in the shower this morning. Thinking about this podcast. And by the way, the shower is where everything
Best
comes
thoughts.
up.
Same.
You and I, that's like the think tank, right? Because nobody's interrupting us. It feels good. And we get to, it's guilt-free time to just imagine.
Yes.
She comes in and she says, I need to borrow your discernment right now. And I know right away, she's like, and I love it. And I'm like, okay, I get to give her, she's like, here's a problem. I need you to help me solve it. So she asks me for something I love to do. Now, if she knew she had to ask me for something, she goes, I need some enablement from you. And I know you're not going to like it, but I really need you to do this for me. I'd be like, okay. And then I have to bear down and get it done. But the vocabulary allows us. And sometimes, I have a great story. We bought a house at one point. The day after it closed, she goes, maybe we should have moved to a different city. And I was like, what? She goes,
Where was this discernment a few months ago? Come on.
And she goes, I'm just wondering and inventing. And I'm like, oh, okay. I thought she was galvanizing me like the day after, like, let's move.
Right. Like, I'm not signed up for this.
We use our language to let people know where we are, and it's really helpful.
I love that. So one thing I'm curious about is, once you have your kind of working genius, do they change? Do they ever change? Is this who you are innately? Is this who you are forever? Like, do you want to focus on your geniuses or do you want to try to like fix your frustrations? Like, how do we find the balance of that?
That's a fabulous question, both of them. First of all, the factual answer, we're convinced that you're born this way. I remember as a child wanting to invent and discern. And in my family, I was never allowed to. They didn't have this. They didn't understand it. They thought nobody said, what's your opinion? You have good judgment. And it was really hard. So most people we talk to, they can trace back their things to their early, like Tracy said, I was a little girl and people were like, ask Tracy. She always knows what to do. So I don't think it changes.
Okay.
I don't think we should work on our weaknesses. I mean, I think we need to know like all of us have to do things we don't love sometimes.
Yeah.
But trying to get good at things that God didn't naturally give us as gifts is a little crazy. Now, maybe if we are so bad at them, we just need to get good enough to get by.
Yeah.
But the world is full of people who are constantly working on the hardest thing for them out of guilt or shame, and then they're never happy. Michael Jordan, a great story, they said when he first came into the NBA, he was not a great shooter. He was great at defense and dunking the ball, and it was amazing athletically. And they said there was two schools of thought. In the off season, go work on your shooting. Just shoot all the time.
Yep.
But what they said is, just keep being good at what you're good at. And when you do that, you'll actually get better at the things you're not naturally good at because you don't feel the pressure to be that way.
Yes.
So when we double down on our frustrations, we actually get worse at it and we lose the confidence in the things we're meant to be confident in.
I think that is probably one of the greatest lessons any listener could hear. And I also think it releases so much pressure that we're putting on ourselves to be all things to all people and be good at all of it. I think that it's a beautiful reminder of like, when you maximize the areas that you are naturally good at, that you enjoy, the enjoyment of your life and your work is like exponential. And at the end of the day, I think we waste too much time working in the areas that we don't enjoy or that we're not good at. And I think that's where a lot of our burnout comes from, our stress comes from, our displeasure comes from. I think a lot of the questions of like, is this really it? Or is this what it's supposed to feel like? Come from focusing on our frustrations too much.
Yeah. I will share. So from an early age, I had childhood wounds around performance and pleasing people, really bad. And I got really good at the things I hated. So my weaknesses are enablement and tenacity, which means the worst job for me is I'm going to ask you to do something. I just want you to say yes, and then I want you to do it perfectly.
Yeah.
My personality is one that like follows my nose. It's creative. I don't want to do everything the same way every day. Yeah. I got straight A's throughout my whole life. I never missed classes. I always did what every teacher, parent, coach told me to do because I thought I was trying to earn love, and that's the way to do it because that's what was expected of me. It actually wounded me terribly. By the time I got into my 20s, I was focused on doing things I hated. I thought that's what success was. That has a cost.
It does.
And when we get really good at what we're not meant to be good at, we start to define ourselves. We almost think we have to be miserable to be successful. And so I would just encourage people, whatever age you're at, and in thinking about your kids, let them lean into the things they're meant to be good at. Yeah, they need to be okay at certain things that they don't like, but don't encourage them to be great at stuff they hate because you can kind of like mess up your wiring. And I'm now at my age, I'm rewiring things to finally recognize, oh yeah, I got to let go of that.
I resonate so deeply on that. And I also feel like I look back at things and I'm like, did I do them because I enjoyed them or just because I was good at them? Like, do you know what I mean? Like there are so many things where people would say like, you're so good at this, you're so good at this. And so then naturally that was the direction I went.
Right.
And it's like you unpack it and like I was a collegiate diver and I, to this day, hate being in pools. I hate it. We just went on vacation and my husband was like, are you going to get into the pool? And I was like, I spent so many years of my life with wet hair smelling like chlorine. I hate it, but I was really good at it. Like I was just good at it. And so it's funny when you start to look back and you ask yourself, like, was I simply good at it? Or did I learn to be good at it? Or did I enjoy it? And I think that is where so many people that are, quote, successful are lacking joy and fulfillment in their everyday life and in the work that they're doing.
Right. I was a basketball player and a football player, but I was tiny. I loved basketball, but I was also a distance runner because even though I was kind of young for my grade and I was small, I could be a distance runner. I hated it.
Yeah.
And I did it all through into college. And because people said, you're good at it. Well, yeah, I was good at it because I wanted so badly to be approved of that I would work harder than anybody else. I would run for fear. And then people they would celebrate me. And I go, well, I can't stop doing this.
Yes.
And it is not healthy. I love this story. I can't remember. I don't know if it was a Bibi Bakila or this runner from Kenya. And he was like the best marathoner ever. And he retired. And when he retired at the press conference, they said, so are you going to run for pleasure now? And he goes, no, I'm never going to run again. And they're like, why? He goes, I hate running. I did it because I was poor. I needed to get out of poverty. I'm going to get fat now and sit around and because he didn't. And when there are people in life that go through most of their life doing something they hate. And if you have to, okay, God bless you. But most of us don't. And we do it we had to purify our intention and say, is this really why I'm on earth? And what a great thing as a parent if you can say to your kids, or you work with somebody and you can say to somebody, hey, you don't have to be good at that, man. If you don't like that, pursue what gives you joy.
Yes. I think this is so powerful. If somebody is listening and they go take the assessment, what would be the first action you want them to take after they figure out who they are? Like, what is the first thing you want to do to just start to see a result or a deeper understanding of what they're reading?
I'd say show it to the people closest to you first and just go through it with them because they will be the first one to celebrate with you the good things and celebrate what you're bad at. And I just did a podcast on this about Celebrate what you're bad at. True humility is just the recognition of that which is true. And if you're good at things, a humble person is like, look, I'm good at this. And it's a gift. Like we say, God gives you the gift, so you can't brag about it. You go, isn't it cool that I have this gift? And then celebrate what you're terrible at. And say, isn't it amazing that I suck at this? And let people celebrate both with you.
Yeah.
It will change everything. So share it with your spouse, share it with your best friends, share it with your coworkers, share it with your boss, and watch what happens. They're going to affirm you both in what you're wonderful at and what you struggle in. And you're going to feel like, oh, I'm allowed to be real and human and honest about this stuff. And it changes everything. So just share it, talk about it. It's a great thing to encourage them to do it too, so you get a chance to celebrate them. It's one of the most cool things to watch two people debrief their working geniuses and frustrations and watch how their relationship changes.
I also just feel like, as you were saying that, it's like a chance to be fully seen, right? Like it's like the parts of you that you have been hiding or ashamed of or like boxing away or pushing through. I feel like it's what we deeply crave as humans is to be fully seen. And it's an opportunity to do just that and to call that out in a way of like, this is who I am. And here's how we can maximize the person that I already am and not necessarily the person I'm striving to become, which I think is really beautiful.
Yeah, I totally agree. Everybody wants to be seen for who they are.
Yes.
And some people go through their whole lives being seen for something else.
Yes.
And to actually be able to go, hey, this is me. And have some people will realize it for the first time.
Yeah.
Some probably see you, but they've never told you, or you didn't realize how they saw you. So whatever it is, you're going to come out of it and going, I'm seen and I'm understood and accepted for that. And that's a beautiful thing in life.
Where can everybody find out more about this, find out more about you, tune into your podcast? Give me all the places.
All right. So to do this, you can go to workinggenius.com, 2 G's in the middle, workinggenius.com. And everything is right there if you want to do it as a team and do your team map or just do it individually or send a license to people. It costs $25. And we said, when we did this, we had people go, no, this is a corporate tool. You should charge more for it. And we're like, no, we want every person in the world to do this.
Yes.
So it's very accessible and that's good. So workinggenius.com. My company that produces this, and we're called the Table Group, and we've been a consulting firm and a think tank for 27 years. So we have a website too called tablegroup.com, and that's where you can find out about our podcasts and everything else. We do a Working Genius podcast where we just unpack this a little bit for a half hour every couple weeks. And you can just find that at wherever you find podcasts, the Working Genius podcast. And then I do a podcast about work life and culture and leadership. And that's called At the Table with Patrick Lencioni. And we just talk about culture and life at work and how it impacts our lives and organizational health. It's not just corporate. It's really how corporations, society, and personal life kind of go together. But I will tell you, I'm going to go write up another book just so I can get back on this podcast because this conversation has been a blast.
It was so much fun. And I just think it's such a beautiful way to uncover and discover parts of you that might be adding frustration or stress, or that might be sucking out potential joy in life. Because at the end of the day, I think we all deserve to be free. And I think anyone listening to this show is looking for freedom and fulfillment. Oh. And you're going to find that when you know more about who you were born to be and how you can also get in the support that you need to shine. And I think it's a beautiful tool that I absolutely love leveraging.
Oh, that's so exciting. This is fun.
Thanks for being with me today.
Hey, thanks for having me, Jenna. God bless.
I will tell you that this assessment is one of the best assessments I have ever taken, especially when it comes to working styles. Knowing where I thrive and shine has been so helpful, and it also explains the areas of my business that cause me the most stress, the most frustration, and the areas where I can claim more freedom. It's actually funny because if you listen back to certain episodes I've done over the years, you will 1000% see my assessment and the types that were defined for me, where they're shining, and where they've also kind of tripped me up. And so I 100% recommend this. I think it's so powerful, and I just think it's so spot on. It's like really uncanny how good it is. If you head to workinggenius.com, you can use the code GOALDIGGER to save 20% off. It's a $25 assessment. I think you will earn back that investment ASAP when you start to see the areas that are giving you joy and the areas that are sucking you dry. Again, that's workinggenius.com. Use the code Goal Digger. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the podcast. If you know anyone who could benefit from it, take a quick minute and share this episode with them. It's such a fun way to dig into who we are, who we were made to be, and the ways that we can feel more freedom and joy in our everyday life and at work. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the podcast. Until next time, keep on digging your biggest goals. Thanks for pulling up a seat for another episode of the Goal Digger podcast. I hope today's episode fueled you with inspiration, gave you information that you can turn into action, and realigned you with your true north in life and business. If you've enjoyed today's episode, head on over to goaldiggerpodcast.com for today's show notes, discount codes for our sponsors, freebies to fuel your results, and so much more. And if you haven't yet, make sure you're subscribed so that you never miss a future show. We'll see you next time, Goal Diggers.
Please note, this episode may contain paid endorsements and advertisements, and individuals on the show may have a direct or indirect financial interest in products or services referred to in the episode. Your support through affiliate links or sponsored content helps us continue to bring you valuable content. Thank you for being a part of the Goal Digger community.